They drained the lake, but what they found underneath will haunt you forever. If you think you've seen it all, think again. Hit that subscribe button, because the story you're about to hear will make you question what really hides beneath still water. It started like any ordinary Friday evening. Two brothers, Adam and Joel, hiking through the dense pine woods that bordered an old forgotten lake in northern Montana. The locals called it Crater Lake, though it didn't appear on any modern maps. The place had no trails, no signs, and no reason for anyone to be there. But for Adam and Joel, it was their secret. A hidden paradise for late-night fishing where nobody would bother them. The air was heavy that night, the kind of damp chill that sinks into your bones even before the sun fully disappears. The brothers reached their usual spot, a flat stretch of rocks on the southern edge. They unpacked their rods, lit their small lantern, and the orange glow painted their faces against the endless black of the lake. The water was too still, not a single ripple. Even the crickets had gone silent. "Feels different tonight," Joel muttered. Adam chuckled, shaking off the unease. "You always say that, man. Just throw the line." For an hour, nothing. No bites, no breeze, just that eerie mirror of black water reflecting the thin crescent moon. Then Joel froze mid-reel. "Did you see that?" he whispered. Across the lake, faint ripples spread like rings from a central point, gentle at first, then violent, as though something massive was pushing upward. Both brothers leaned forward, squinting into the darkness. A dark silhouette broke the surface. At first, Adam thought it was a log, until the log began to rise. Slow, deliberate, upright, shoulders, a head, the unmistakable outline of a person. But no one should have been there. Not this deep into the woods, not at midnight. And the figure just stood there, half submerged, motionless, facing them. "Hey!" Joel shouted. No response. Adam grabbed his flashlight and flicked it toward the lake, but the beam didn't reach far enough. What it revealed for only a second sent a chill through him. Pale skin glistening, hair hanging wet and long, like seaweed drifting over water. Then, before either of them could speak, the figure slowly sank beneath the surface. Seconds passed, then a minute, then two. "She didn't come back up," Joel said, voice trembling. Adam wanted to leave. Every instinct screamed at him to pack up, but his brother stood frozen, staring at the spot. The lantern flickered, and in that split-second darkness, Adam swore he heard something. A low hum, almost like a woman's voice coming from the water. They turned to go, but the hum grew louder. It wasn't in their ears anymore. It was inside their heads. A vibration that made their bones ache. Then, ripples again, but this time, closer, much closer. "Joel, grab the gear," Adam hissed, backing away. His brother didn't move. His pupils were dilated, his lips parted slightly as if listening to something only he could hear. "Joel!" When Adam shook him, Joel blinked rapidly and gasped like someone waking from a nightmare. "She was calling my name," he whispered. That was when they saw her again. Not across the lake, but 20 feet away, half her face emerging from the water. A woman, pale, expressionless, eyes reflecting the lantern's glow like glass. Her hair spread around her in a dark halo as she smiled. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Every sound vanished. No crickets, no wind, only that voice echoing across the still water. Then she disappeared again. The brothers ran, stumbling through brush and roots, dropping their tackle box, not daring to look back. The hum followed them, fading only when they reached the dirt road near their truck. For a long time they just sat inside, locked doors, breathing hard. When Adam finally turned the ignition, Joel said softly, "She said my name." How did she know my name? They never told anyone. Not their father, not the police. For months they avoided that place. But curiosity always wins eventually. 3 weeks later, Joel went back alone. He never came home. The only thing they found was his fishing rod, standing upright at the lake's edge, its line cast deep into the water as if someone were still holding it. End of Chapter 1. Would you like me to continue with Chapter 2, where the search for Joel turns into a criminal investigation that uncovers a decades-old disappearance linked to the same lake? The search began at dawn. When Joel didn't return home that night, Adam drove straight back to Crater Lake with 2 local deputies and a search team. The woods were cold and quiet, the kind of silence that swallows the sound of your own breathing. Adam's hands shook as he pointed them toward the trailhead. "He came this way," he said, though part of him already knew they wouldn't find him alive. By the time they reached the lake, the mist was still thick, curling over the water like smoke. Joel's backpack sat near the same rocks they'd fished from. His boots were beside it, perfectly aligned, deliberate, careful. And there, standing upright in the shallow water, was his fishing rod, still baited, the line pulled taut into the depths. One of the deputies muttered, "No drag marks, no struggle." Adam stared at the footprints. 2 sets, side by side, ending right at the water's edge. "Someone was with him," he said. Divers were called in. For hours they combed the lake, surfacing with nothing but old fishing lures and silt. Then one diver came up fast, ripping off his mask and gasping for air. "There's something down there," he said, voice shaking. "Not a body. Something else." When pressed, he only added, "It's like the bottom moves." That night, the sheriff ordered the search paused. Adam refused to leave. He sat by the lake's edge with a flashlight, calling his brother's name into the dark, his voice breaking every time. But all he heard in return was the faint ripple of water and a whisper carried on the breeze that almost sounded like laughter. The next morning, state investigators arrived. One of them, Detective Laura Grant, took a personal interest in the case. She'd read about the lake years ago, how it wasn't marked on official maps, how nearby property records showed a failed community settlement in the 1950s. The town vanished after a flood, she told Adam quietly. The lake formed where those homes once stood. The idea hit Adam like ice. "You mean there's a town under there?" "An entire one," she said. "And maybe something else." That evening, Grant reviewed the old reports and found something chilling. Between 1952 and 1954, 6 people from the settlement had drowned. All young men, all in the same section of the lake that now covered the ruins. Each incident described the victims acting strangely before entering the water. Witnesses mentioned a woman calling from the lake, her voice described as soft and melodic, just before they disappeared. Adam couldn't breathe. "That's what Joel said. She called his name." Detective Grant looked uneasy. "Then maybe your brother isn't the first, or the last." Later that night, Adam returned alone again, flashlight trembling in his grip. He needed answers and closure. He stood on the same rock they'd fished from, staring into the black water. "Joel," he whispered, "if you can hear me." A ripple broke the surface, then another, and another. The water began to churn, slow at first, then violently, as though something massive was waking below. From the center of the lake, a pale shape began to rise. Adam stumbled, backward, flashlight shaking. At first, he thought it was an animal. Then he saw hair, long, brown, clinging to translucent skin. A woman emerged from the water, shoulders bare, eyes empty. Her voice was calm, almost tender. "You came back." Adam froze. "Where's my brother?" he demanded. Her smile widened. "He's still here." She pointed behind him. Adam turned, and there, half submerged near the rocks, was a shape. Human. Still. Pale hands breaking the surface. His heart stopped as he realized what he was seeing. He dropped to his knees, shouting Joel's name, reaching toward the water. But when his fingers brushed the skin, it was ice cold, unmoving. Then, as he stared, the body's head tilted upward. It wasn't Joel. The woman from the water was now gone, and what lay before him wasn't a corpse at all. It was a mannequin, waterlogged, wrapped in Joel's jacket. Behind him, the lake went silent again. Only the faint creak of the fishing rod line echoed through the mist. Detective Grant found Adam's truck abandoned the next morning. The driver's door was open, the keys still in the ignition. On the passenger seat was Joel's phone, turned on, its flashlight glowing. The last recorded video was only 10 seconds long. A dark lake, a woman's reflection, and a voice whispering, "He's waiting below." If you thought the last chapter was dark, you haven't seen what's under the surface yet. Hit that subscribe button because this ending might haunt you tonight. 3 days after Adam's disappearance, Detective Laura Grant returned to Crater Lake with a new team. The investigation had officially turned into a recovery mission. Locals whispered about the curse of the drowned brothers, while media outlets called it a tragic accident. But Grant didn't believe in accidents. Not two in the same lake, not with the same haunting detail. The woman's voice. The divers went back in with sonar equipment this time. The readings came back strange. Sections of the lake bed seemed hollow, with geometric patterns suggesting old foundations beneath. Houses, REITs, the remnants of a drowned town. Grant stood on the shore, staring into the fog. Her radio crackled. "Detective," one diver said, his voice distorted by static. "You're not going to believe this. We found a door, an actual door down here, still standing upright." She frowned. "What kind of door?" "It's metal and sealed shut, but there's something carved into it. Looks like names." When they sent the footage up, Grant's stomach dropped. The door was indeed real, rusted, ancient, but solid, and etched into the corroded metal were the names of 6 men, the same 6 from the 1950s drownings. Below their names, one word was barely legible under the algae: offering. The sheriff wanted to halt the dive, claiming it was too dangerous, but Grant overrode him. "Open it," she ordered. What happened next would never be released to the public. The divers cut through the door and descended into a small stone chamber. Inside, the cameras flickered, picking up only fragments. Wooden pews, a sunken altar, waterlogged portraits on the wall. And then, movement. Something human-shaped drifted past the lens, slow and graceful. For a moment, it appeared to wave. Then, the feed went black. Above the surface, every diver's vitals flatlined. Grant's team panicked. They pulled the lines, but all they recovered were the helmets. Visors shattered inward, as if crushed by water pressure far greater than the lake's depth. That night, Grant stayed at the scene alone, combing through Adam's final phone video frame by frame. In the reflection of the lake, just before the voice whispered, "He's waiting below," she noticed something new. A faint pattern of lights beneath the surface. Not random. Aligned in a perfect grid. Streets, buildings, and at the center, a church steeple still standing. Unable to sleep, Grant hiked back to the water before dawn. She stood where Adam had last been seen, flashlight trembling in her hand. "Who are you?" she called out. "What do you want?" The lake didn't answer, but then ripples began spreading outward, smooth and deliberate. A woman's voice, distant and echoing, drifted through the mist. "You found us." Grant froze. The fog thickened, and from the water's edge a figure began to rise. A woman, the same pale one described in both brothers' accounts, now inches from the shore. Her eyes glowed faintly blue under the beam of the flashlight. "You shouldn't have opened it," the woman whispered. "Now they can leave." The water behind her began to boil. Hands, dozens of them, pale, wrinkled, clawing their way up through the surface, reaching toward the air. Faces followed. Men, women, children, bloated and silent, mouths moving without sound. Grant stumbled backward, tripping over her own equipment. "Stay back!" she screamed, but the woman only smiled. "They've been waiting for another offering." Then everything went black. At sunrise, a state rescue team arrived. The lake was calm again, mirror smooth, as though nothing had ever happened. But the shoreline told another story. Grant's radio, her flashlight, and her badge lay half buried in the mud. Her car was still parked by the road, engine cold. When they reviewed her dashcam footage, it showed one final frame before cutting out. The lake glowing faintly blue beneath the surface, with a figure standing on the rocks, watching the camera. She looked exactly like Laura Grant. Authorities drained Crater Lake 2 months later, claiming it was for public safety. But witnesses said that even as the water levels dropped, the center of the lake never emptied. The darkness just stayed. And when the divers went down one last time to seal the drain, their sonar recorded something that still can't be explained. A heartbeat, steady and deep, echoing from below. They called it the pulse of the drowned town. And if you ever drive through northern Montana on a foggy night, roll your windows up when you pass an unmarked body of water. Because sometimes, you might hear a woman humming your name from beneath the waves. And that was the story of the town beneath the lake. A place erased from maps, cursed by its own forgotten dead, and still waiting for the next person curious enough to look too closely. If you felt that chill run down your spine, you're not alone. Stories like this remind us that the real horror isn't always in haunted houses or dark forests. Sometimes, it's buried under calm water, just waiting to resurface. Before you scroll away, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next story will take you even deeper into the strange, dark, and unexplained. Tell me in the comments, would you ever visit a place like this? Or would you rather keep your distance from lakes that don't exist on any map? Stay curious, stay safe, and remember, the quiet ones are usually the ones hiding the loudest secrets.